All right, welcome back to the Now Morning Show here on TTT. I am Nasli Lagor, and in studio with us at this time is the deputy political leader of the Progressive Democratic Patriots. I'm always saying People's Democratic Patriots. The Progressive Democratic Patriots, Mr. Farley, Augustine. And he's here to just talk to us about this power-sharing arrangement that was proposed by the PDP to the PNM in getting the THA to be constituted and to be working for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning to you, Mr. Augustine.
Good morning, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming down.
Most definitely.
So Farley came from overseas for this interview.
Right. That's right. That's right.
So he took a plane. So we're very excited to have an international guest in studio with us this morning. So Farley, I spoke with Mrs. Celestine this morning to ask about, you know, the way forward, the power sharing agreement, and she was saying to me that she doesn't think it can work to have a PNM chief secretary and a PDP finance secretary, because the finance secretary advises the chief secretary. What do you make of that?
I actually think the opposite. I think it can work. And I actually think that in Tobagonians deciding to make us even Stevens, so to speak, Tobagonians were essentially saying, look, we're tired of hearing all of you all back and forth. Yeah. We can't really decide which of you we should give the executive control to. So how about all of you behave like Tobagonians, like good Tobagonians, and find a way to work it out. Additionally, what we are proposing is not that we have this arrangement for a protracted period of time. We are not proposing that we do this for the next 4 years. What we are saying is that we should do this temporarily so that we can have good governance, so that we can have democracy at work, so we can have accountability, while at the same time, the both parties together, and I've said this on the program before, the both parties together advance the cause for greater autonomy for Tobago. So we're going back to the polls, with a fresh mandate. So it's a temporary arrangement. I believe it can work. And in order for this arrangement to work, what also has to happen is that we have to more or less split power down the middle so that each party becomes a natural check and balance for the other party, so that we are forced to work by consensus as opposed to working unilaterally as we are accustomed to.
Why is it so important for the PDP to have the secretary, the division of finance?
Because, as Mrs. Celestine would have said to you this morning, the Secretary of Finance, as all other secretaries, advises the Chief Secretary. The Chief Secretary can also directly give instructions to the Secretary of Finance outside of the Executive Council. And we don't want a situation where we are part of an Executive Council and we don't have the opportunity to create that natural check and balance. Because remember, once we are part of a joint Executive Council, automatically we are all governed by the principle of collective, ensuring that as a collective body that, you know, we have collective responsibility, that we share that. And
how did the PDP decide on what divisions it wanted to manage? Because you all seem to have been very specific about the divisions. Is it divisions that handle a lot of money?
Well, some of them do. Some of them do. But
well, health does.
Health does, works does.
Secretary does.
Works does.
I mean, finance does, works does.
Well,
and you all have asked for these. Is
finance,
it being driven by money?
Finance isn't the largest of the divisions. Finance actually
Finance
actually has one of the smallest budgets. But it might be powerful, but not necessarily with money. Health does, works does. But what we sought to do from day one was to say, look, we are going to give you the presiding officer position, which means you control the entire assembly legislature. We are going to give you the chief secretary position, which means you control the executive council, and in essence we'll have 5 of the 9 positions on the executive council. Remember, based on the THA Act, there are only 9 positions allowed. So someone will have to have 4, and someone will have to have 5.
But I don't
and so
understand,
if I'm taking 4, and I'm giving you 5, then there must be something to compensate for me being at a numerical disadvantage, where at any executive council meeting, you can outvote me and your position can have the final say.
So you believe
and
that,
so to
that
create that sort of balance
is to have these divisions?
Is to have some of these divisions, correct.
So money is a compensation
not
for
necessarily
the lack
money,
of power?
not necessarily money, but we're also looking at division of labor and responsibilities. Works and infrastructure is the largest division in terms of the employment pool, and one of those areas that we have always had challenges with in terms of our management and accountability and so on. And if it is I run a campaign saying to Tobagonians that I can manage better, I can account better, then why not offer myself for some of those hardest divisions?
But the thing is that the PDP hasn't offered itself those Farley. What you literally said to me just now is that I am giving you, if you're talking about power sharing,
correct,
I don't know that you can be dictating to
anybody we're not dictating
I am
at all.
giving you chief secretary, I am giving you deputy presiding officer.
But we're not dictating.
The language to start
but we're not dictating.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the first proposal we put out there, we said, fine, we'll give you the two most powerful presiding officer.
There it is again. We will give you.
No.
You can't give them.
Right, we'll offer you. I'll use the word offer, right?
Same thing.
No. And that's it. They are synonyms. So when I say give in context, I'm really saying we offer, right? And it's an offer that can be refused.
You can't offer.
No, we can't. And a counter offer can be
propose.
Given. And a counter offer can be given, right? So if we say, look, we're going to offer you presiding officer and chief secretary.
We're proposing.
And hold on, let me finish. And we will accept deputy chief secretary, secretary of finance. You get 5 of the divisions, we get 4. And we said from our very first proposal, we will need to negotiate for every other division. So what essentially we have proposed, to use the term you insist that I use, is that these are some divisions we will like to have. That doesn't mean that these are the divisions that we will end up having.
But however, you have said that the division of finance is non-negotiable.
And that's the division that we have been firm about. But we have not been as firm on the others.
How do you go to a negotiation table and you already have something written in stone if you're talking about power sharing on behalf of the people of Tobago? I'm just curious about that.
Because at the end of the day, we do not want to have a situation where the people we represent, that stands for 6 of the 12 seats, end up being at a disadvantage. And if it is, I am saying to the people who voted for the PDP and who voted for Farley to be chief secretary, that I am not going to honor your wish, your democratic wish. I am going to give that up. There must be something I can return to them and say, look, I am giving up that which you have voted for. And here is an alternative that I think it may not be equal. It may be inferior to what you have voted for. But I'm saying to you, hey, this is an alternative that we can live with, that I think you can live with for a temporary period. And similarly, I think those on the other side will be making similar demands. And the truth is, no 6 is bigger than the other. And that's why in our last correspondence to Mrs. Davison Celestine, we asked for a meeting, which we asked for today, and that meeting will now happen tomorrow. So, and the reason we asked for that meeting is because that we expect that we will sit at the table, we coming with our wish list, they coming with their wish list, and we figure out, okay, I will relent on this, and you relent on that.
What if the PNM says? What if the PNM says no? No to the division of finance. What's the PDP's position going forward?
The PDP will no doubt have to return to the larger body and have a discussion. But at this moment going in, I can tell you that we are pretty firm about that division of finance. And we are firm about it because if it is we are going into actual power sharing, you can't want to have all the power. And then
but the thing is that it's your proposal. It's your proposal, so I don't know that you can accuse the PNM Tobago Council of wanting all the power. This whole proposal came from the PDP.
Correct.
So at the end of the day, if the PDP came up with this, it's because the PDP decided that this is what was good for the PDP. But
and it's not as good for the PDP, because remember, we have said to the public and through the media that we didn't just come up with this. We have not left the ground. As in, since the election happened, I have kept all my candidates walking the ground, not just to say thank you. I've been saying thank you door to door, literally. which is unheard
good.
of.
That's very good.
But we have been doing it to solicit from the people who voted for us. What do you think? And one of the key things keep coming up.
By the way, Saddam Hussein did it in Barataria, just for the record.
Yes. and that's good, and that's the direction politics in the Caribbean should be heading towards. And if the majority of the people that we talk to say, look, all they can share, all they can figure out a way around this, then the responsible thing to do as a PDP is to offer a power sharing arrangement, which we did. And the PNM accepted in principle. And we have said from day one that it requires that both sides negotiate. And it is one thing if I came and I said, all that we put on the paper, we want, and we will not move from that. I'm not saying that. All I've said is, if I'm giving you or allowing you to have the positions of Chief Secretary and Presiding Officer, because remember, unless we have this arrangement, there is no way Mrs. Davison Celestine will become the island's first female Chief Secretary. Right. We have to literally offer her that for her to have it. There's no other way for it to happen.
And this is what I'm saying. For me,
at this moment, and so if it is we are going to give up our ambition as a party to rule the executive, it's only fair that we have something that can create a counterbalance and thereby creating some form of equilibrium.
Why didn't the PDP say, okay, let's take the executive and you go with these big divisions? Sure. Why not?
And the truth is, we have also said publicly, should the PNM come to the table and say, fine, let's reverse it. You take what you have offered us, and we take what you wanted for yourself. We will accept it. We have said that publicly. We will accept it. It's not a problem. We will accept it. And that's because we genuinely think that what we are putting on the table is fair. And, when we meet tomorrow, I am very hopeful that, we can negotiate things out. We could say, look, Farley, if it is we're giving you finance and works, then we can give you health as well. And I'll say, okay, that's fine. Keep health. You, the existing Secretary of Health, Mrs. Davison Celestine, keep it. And we go back and forth until we figure it out. But from day one, I felt like we needed to spend some time figuring it out. And I'll be honest in saying, getting into this at the early stages, it was difficult to come to this place of offering this kind of proposal. Because when you go into an election in a first-past-the-post system, in any democracy in the world, you're going to win it. You're not going in to share executive power with anyone. You don't want to come away with sharing anything. And you want the outcome to always work in your favor.
I remember the PDP saying...
At this point in time, it cannot be about working totally in my favor, totally in their favor.
Understood. But I remember the PDP saying that it wasn't willing to go back to the polls. Has the PDP changed that position, recognizing that that's probably the only way, as the Prime Minister said, to treat with this in the long run?
It's not that we weren't willing to go back to the polls.
No, you all actually said it.
What you have said is that we should go back to the polls with our autonomy. We are not in agreement with the Prime Minister just coming and creating this amendment and creating 15 seats. We said, give us our whole bill, look how long the bill there. Give us our autonomy and let's go back and get a fresh mandate. That's the direction we want to go back to the polls. And this proposal facilitates this.
There is a thought that the PDP is aligned to the United National Congress. If that is true, will the PDP use its voice with the United National Congress, use its sway to get that passed in the House? Because it's a bill that requires a 3/5 majority.
Let me rubbish that claim, and I've been rubbishing that claim all along. The PDP is not aligned to the UNC. And that is really a narrative born out of a need to trump up racist politics in the country.
But how would it be racist if one is Indian predominantly and one's African predominantly? That alignment is good?
The issue, but why make it an issue? If it is us aligning with the UNC is a political weapon, what makes it a weapon other than the fact that there is some racism, and that comes from a party that on a public platform would have spewed racism by way of warning Tobagonians that some great Calcutta ship will come to Tobago. And I'm saying, look, The PDP is not aligned to the UNC, and in fact, before the House was dissolved the last time, we carried a motion asking the PNM to join us, so that I think the both parties need to come to Trinidad and talk to the both parties in Trinidad, because the both major parties in Trinidad have been slack concerning Tobago's business.
We are out of time, Farley, but do you have
after a flight from overseas?
Look, you know,
I thought we were going to get
we've
even
gone
into
24 minutes, whether or not you want to believe it.
Into some of my experiences in Jamaica and all of that. I thought we were going to spend some time.
24 minutes. I'm way over the time. And Lubel is just in my ears telling me, you need to wrap, you need to wrap. Sorry, Lubel, but final question to you. Tomorrow, do you believe that you will be able to come to an agreement tomorrow for and on behalf of the people of Tobago?
I am hopeful that we can come to an agreement. I'm hopeful that we can work it out.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we could return to Tobagonians after tomorrow and say, look, we have figured something out that is a temporary arrangement. I mean, if that doesn't happen, then we have to move as quickly to the polls as possible.
Yeah,
and may have to do so without even the autonomy that we really hope as a party from the people that we will get to go back to the polls with. But if hopefully things will work out. Fingers crossed.
I hope so.
Praying about it.
All right, that's Farley Augustine speaking with us. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Mr. Augustine. We do have to rush to that break. We'll take that break now.
Tribute to the mighty shadow.